What's up guys, Justin here with TheSketchUpEssentials.com, back with another SketchUp extension tutorial for you. So last week I got a question on how to use proxy components in Enscape to speed up your models. And before I get started, today's video is brought to you by the SketchUp Essentials course. The SketchUp Essentials course is a start to finish SketchUp course that I created that's really designed to help you learn everything from the basics of SketchUp all the way to getting into some more advanced topics like modeling for interior design and layout and an introduction to photorealistic rendering. So if that's something you're interested in, you want to get a little more in-depth SketchUp training, make sure you check that out at TheSketchUpEssentials.com/course. Now let's go ahead and just jump into it. So the reason this is important is because your SketchUp models can only handle so much geometry before they start significantly slowing down. And so several different programs have different ways to basically swap out the high polygon models that are going to slow down your overall SketchUp model with some kind of lower polygon type stuff so that it's not slowing down your SketchUp model. And so, like, for example, this is a model, and this is a model I downloaded from the 3D Warehouse. It's the Farnsworth House by Kurt M. And basically what I've done is I've brought in trees around the perimeter in order to start creating kind of my context, my site context in here. And the thing is, these are the trees that come along with Scatter, which I'll link to in the notes below, but Scatter is basically a landscape scattering plugin. So what it does is it's designed to scatter things kind of randomly, or however you set it, so that you can get kind of a natural look with this geometry. And one thing you'll notice about these is these are very large, high polygon models. So like right now, for example, if I was to go into my window, model info, and I was to go into my statistics, I've got over 1.3 million edges and over 500,000 faces in this model, most of which are living inside these components. And so if you were to look at this model, you can see how it's this one right here, and that file is 61 megabytes. So it's really big because of all the trees within your model, which isn't really a big deal when you're using something like Enscape. Like if I was to come in here and I was just to click the play button, this would run just fine. It would run nice and smooth. Enscape is able to handle all of that geometry. So you can see I can fly around and all of these leaves and everything else render just fine. You can see how I can fly around without any kind of stuttering or anything like that. So that works great, but your SketchUp model is going to be super slow. And I've already had to stop and wait for this to load a couple different times within SketchUp. And so what we're going to do instead is I'm actually going to come in here and I'm going to delete all of these out. So I'm just going to go into the components section of my tray. I'm going to right click and I'm going to do a select instances, and I'm just going to delete these out. So I'm just going to select the instances of all my different trees and remove them from my model. And so now if I was to do another file save as, so if I did a proxy component example, no trees, and save that, that's going to save a lot faster and it's going to be a much smaller file. So now if you were to go in and look at this, you can see how the version I saved without any trees in it is only a 511 kilobyte file. So you can see how this is significantly different and significantly more lightweight. But now we have a problem because we don't have trees in our model. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use a function within Enscape called proxy components. And so what proxy components are going to do is that's going to allow us to put a placeholder component within our model that Enscape is going to read as a tree, and it'll display the tree, but you won't slow your SketchUp model down. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go in here and we're going to click on this little shield that says Enscape Objects. Then you're going to go in and you're going to look for the option called Proxy. And so what Proxy is going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to bring an external model in. And so basically what this requires is you just have to have your tree saved somewhere on your computer. And then what you can do is you just click on the Proxy option, and in this case I'm going to select one of these scattered trees, and I'm going to bring that in, and you can see how those are like 19 megabyte files, so they're pretty big files for just trees. But I'm going to select one of those with the proxy option available, and basically what I can do is I can come in here and I can click all over the place, like wherever I want, in order to bring these into my model. And so basically what this is done, and I'm going to hit the space key to get out of that, is basically what this is doing is this has a whole bunch of different proxy components in here. So every one of these boxes, when I activate Enscape, is going to have a tree in it. So if I was to come in here and I was to click on Start Enscape, you can see how what that does is that comes in here and that actually references those external models and it brings them in so that you can see them within Enscape without having this super heavy SketchUp model. And so this is really, and one of the things you can do, and I'm just going to drag this off to the side, is you can also like rotate these. So like for example, if I was to come in here and rotate this tree this way, and I'm going to try to do kind of a split screen thing here. So if I was to come in here and I was to rotate this, this tree is going to rotate along with that. And you can see how I can also scale it to adjust the size of the tree, and that'll adjust in real time in Enscape. So you can adjust the size and location of these proxy boxes, and your tree is actually going to move along with those. So this is a really great way to create a really detailed model that's kind of lightweight. And so one other thing I want to show you real quick is, let's say that you don't have any trees yet. Let's say you want to bring a tree in from the 3D warehouse. So if we were to go to File, 3D Warehouse, and we were to click Get Models, what that's going to do is that's going to pop up your 3D warehouse. And let's say, for example, that I was just to do a search for tree for render and hit the Enter key, and I was to find one. And let's say that I really like this CG World pine tree. So what we would do is we would click on that pine tree, and we'd want to bring that into our model. So in order to do that, we would click the download button. And you can see how this isn't as big as the scatter trees, but it's still got a lot of different polygons and that kind of thing. What we would do is we would click the download option, but when it asks you if you want to load this directly in your SketchUp model, we would say no. And what we would do instead is we would save it in the folder where our model is. So in this case, I would just save it as detailed pine tree. I would click save, and then I would just bring that in as a proxy model as well. So I would just click on proxy in Enscape objects, and then I double click on detailed pine tree. And you can see how I'm just doing the same thing where I'm just like moving around and clicking. And we'll have to see how this works, because you can see how these are extending a little bit below the ground. But you can see I was able to bring those trees in, and then if I click on Start Enscape again, then those pine trees I selected are showing up in here as well. So you can see how this is a really easy way to bring in different landscaping options within Enscape without having to make your file really heavy. One of the cool things about this is if I do a file, save as, and I save this as proxy component example with proxies, and then I do a file open just to look at it, you can see how this is only a 535 kilobyte file. So this isn't a super heavy model, but I can still get all of this super heavy geometry in here. So this is really useful for speeding up your models within SketchUp. And one other thing you could do is you could also swap out your proxy file. So you can see how right now these are all in here as this scatter tree 01. So all of these different proxies are. And I don't know, I think you can only do one at a time, but if you were to adjust out the proxy file, you could actually swap this for your detailed pine tree, and no, actually every one of these adjusted as well. And so basically what I did there is I just clicked on the little folder icon, and I just told this to reference another file. So you click on the folder icon, and you can see how these were the scatter tree one before. Well, I double clicked on the detailed pine tree instead, and you can see how it swapped all of these out. So if I was to go back into my Enscape rendering, you can see how now all of those trees are in here as the pine tree instead of the scatter tree. So it's really easy to swap things out using this function as well. So that's where I'm going to end this video. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought. Did you like this video? Is this something you find helpful? I just love having that SketchUp conversation with you guys. If you like this video, please remember to click that like button down below. If you're new around here, remember to click that subscribe button for new SketchUp content every week. If you like what I'm doing in this channel, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Every little bit helps, even if it's only $1 a month. So make sure you check out that link in the notes down below. But in any case, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this. I really appreciate it, and I will catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.